Breathe into that. Allow your body to feel that comfort and love. To feel your face as a physical part of who you are. To know that you radiate the power and presence we call God out into the world through that face. All faces are beautiful, worthy, loving and lovable. You are that face, those eyes, that heart. Feel that. Drop into your heart space. Allow your breath to guide you gently, gently. Like gliding along a lazy river with the sun dappling through the trees, a perfect temperature, a lovely little breeze. Let's take a little ride on the river with James Dillard Freeman here. But you can be on the raft by yourself. Rivers hardly ever. You don't have to focus on these words, just allow them, like the energy of water washing over you. Rivers hardly ever run in a straight line. Rivers are willing to take 10,000 meanders and enjoy every one and grow from every one. When they leave a meander, they are always more than when they entered it. When rivers meet an obstacle, they do not try to run over it. They merely go around. But they always get back to the other side. Rivers accept things as they are, conform to the shape they find the world in. Yet nothing changes things more than rivers. Rivers more even mountains into the sea, move even mountains into the sea. Rivers are hardly ever in a hurry. Yet is there anything more likely to reach the point it sets out for than a river? Take a moment now and imagine you are that river. Imagine how your life can flow and meander. Accepting things as they are, with power to move mountains in your life, simply by allowing the flow of spirit. As we open the doors of our heart wide, we become the river as we flow. And let us take these thoughts, these words, this comfort out into the silence. breathing in and breathing out. As our thoughts meander, we always come back a little clearer, a little calmer, a little more focused on the love that we are, the face of love, the face of God. Take a nice deep and cleansing breath. As we prepare for our special music, which is going to bring our energy up beautifully, like the river flows calm and smooth and goes into the rapids, still focused and lovely. We're going to hear a wonderful Karen Drucker song. You're welcome to get up and dance. I believe in fireflies.
Child's eyes, with all the innocence and wonder that they know. I could live my life in pain or wave a wand and choose again. Since joy is my destiny, then it's all up to me. I believe that fireflies light up because they love you. I believe that rainbows are love notes in the sky. I believe the sun only sets when it is tired. I believe in the love that exists between you and I. There's always a choice in what to believe. Well, there's a million different ways the story can go. I've viewed things up and down and all around, analyzed and pushed it around. Look for answers up above instead of seeing it with love. I believe that fireflies light up because they love you. I believe that rainbows are love notes in the sky. I believe the sun only sets when it is tired. I believe in the love that exists between you and I.
I love Karen Drucker. And I love Daniel Nahmod, and I love our musicians here. And you guys, it's just that song just, because, you know, I lived in Alaska when I lived in Idaho. We didn't have fireflies. You know, they didn't, there was, they, and some of those night noises, you know, that you get, crickets and things. Um, and well, I really miss that. I didn't realize. Spent a lot of my childhood. How many of you chase fireflies? Put them in jars. Let it be your candle. They're so magical. This little tiny bug lighting up our life. Today's talk is about reclaiming your joy. And one of my favorite quotes by Charles Fillmore is, it's my byline on my email, is I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm as I spring forth with a mighty faith to do what is mine to do the things that ought to be done by me, specifically is what he said. I like that, ought to be done by me. They use language from late 1800s, early 1900s. They used different language, but they expressed it so beautifully. And of course, Charles talked about zeal and enthusiasm in the 12 powers that Nancy did a wonderful class just recently on. And you know, he wrote that when he was around 92. There's different reports of when he wrote it, but he was in his 90s. But he lived it his whole life. He had that zeal and enthusiasm, yet he was a quiet man. He was very humorous. He was very, you know, he loved jokes and he loved being with people, but he wasn't a showman in any way. But he had that zeal and enthusiasm. And you know what? Charles' middle name is Sherlock. My favorite detective. Charles Sherlock Fillmore. And it's hard for me not to say Holmes, but because there's Ernest Holmes, but he's not, you know, golly. So he was a great detective too, Charles was, as well as his bride, Mary Caroline Page, AKA Myrtle Fillmore. Even though she was 10 years old, 9 years older than him, they were both spiritual pioneers and detectives at the same time, because they were also literal pioneers going out west, you know, to Colorado on the covered wagon, whole deal, you know. And I remember the first time I drove to Unity Village from Ohio. And, you know, it's about a 10-hour drive. And I was like, I had a CD, or not a CD at that point. It was a cassette tape. That's how long ago it was. You probably don't even know what that is, do you? Okay, good. So there was a cassette tape of Lessons in Truth, because that's one of the classes I was going out for, to take classes out to the village for 2 weeks. And but I was thinking, you know, because the way her language was, I don't know who the author, who was speaking, but I pretended it was Myrtle because it sounded like recordings I've heard of her. And I thought, oh my gosh, here I am. I was getting a little nervous going all by myself, even though I've traveled far and wide in a car. I don't know, I was nervous. So here I am in my Honda with the air conditioning and every bells and whistles you could want, driving down a beautiful highway, you know, 70 west. And I thought about Myrtle and Charles in their covered wagon, you know, and what that was like. And we think we got it hard. So I could go on, but in August, the month of August is both Charles and Myrtle's birthday. His is the 2nd and hers is the 23rd or something. So August is going to be Fillmore month and Silent Unity and stuff. So I've got a lot of things planned to talk about and to explore in the month of August. So Just a FYI there. It's called a tickler, I think. Right. So Myrtle, as we know, discovered the wonder of light and in the silence and taught Charles prayer and meditation. And, last week for Father's Day, I said, that was just last week, right? I said, there's the quote that started her on this path was, I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit illness. And then I made a comment and I said, I don't believe that I'm a child of God in a literal sense, but I think a few people got upset about it. And you know what? That's okay. What my prayer is that if I push a button or if I say something that you go, then please come talk to me. I love feedback. I love to know what you want to hear about. I pray that every time before I sit down and create Sunday morning. I pray what needs to be heard. So apparently that did. And I'll go into that more on a different time. But you understand, for me, God up there was very, very scary for me as a child. Even though I went to a Christian church and I wasn't, it wasn't hell and brimstone, hot fire and brimstone church, but I just got this image that God was watching me, and when he wasn't, Santa was. So I was just in trouble all the time, I was kind of, an active child. So that to me is why I said that, because I have to put God here. And the Fillmores use old language about God the Father, our Lord, those kinds of things, but then they go right in the next sentence and say, within us, within us, within us. Because if we keep God up in the sky, then it's harder to make that connection. It's harder to bring it home. It's harder to say, yes, I am the face of God. Oh my God, I can't be the face of God. I might get in trouble for that. That's where we bring it home. We bring it home. So over 130 years later, we're still, the Fillmores, wait, let me go back. During their lifetime, there was a pandemic, the 1801 Spanish flu. There was a civil war. Myrtle was born before the Civil War. What? There were 2 world wars, a depression, and the hardships of traveling by wagon across the country or just across the county. So here we are 130 years later, still excited about this message, still growing as a movement, And they had times of great joy and great sorrow, but how did they not only survive, but thrive? How did they thrive? Grow a worldwide ministry. You know what? Steadfast prayer, steadfast faith, and joy in the wonder of it all, in the wonder of life that sparked their zeal and enthusiasm to move forward. They celebrated with joy by the dawning of their understanding of the energy and love of the truth that God is, the truth we can use, that practical principles that we can use in our life, not just hear about and then go about our regular routine. We challenge you. That's what my whole training is about. That's what my whole calling in my life has been about, is to question and find those things that really are relevant to my life. I get pretty bored with theology and all these endless discussions about things. It's like, what does that mean to me in my life? How can I use that information, right? How can I use it? And that's why I fell in love with religious science, Ernest Holmes, and unity. And what has brought me here today, what has brought us all here today,
So we need to talk about what experiences we've had of this living, lovely, wonderful God within us. And so I called this talk, reclaiming our joy, because well, for the last one thing, it's been raining for the last week and a half. And yay, the gardens. I know Jen and Linda are just rejoicing that they don't have to have anybody come and water, so we're happy with our plants and our farms and our things, but dang, I love rainy days, but I'm even getting tired of them. So when we reclaim our joy after we've gone through this pandemic, and we're just kind of barely coming out of it, we're kind of coming out of our caves. Tony took people bear watching in Alaska for about 10 years, out to the grizzlies where they were feeding, right up next. I mean, they'd be as close as Carrie is to me. They didn't care about humans. They're like, you guys smell weird, and they were interested in mating and then the salmon that were running in the rivers. So they take pictures, but they come out, in the spring. You can just imagine these big old things coming out, smelling, what's going on. So that's what I feel like for this pandemic. We're just kind of crawling out of our caves, out of our little nests that we've made so wonderful with all of our electronics and all these wonderful things. And we're coming back now, and we're trying to make up for all the things that we felt we lost, for all the time we felt we lost. Guess what? You can't. We can't go back, but we can reclaim that same joy that we have as we can move about freely, even though we have some fears maybe still about, mask, no mask. No. Do I want to go to the grocery store with my mask off? That scared me the first time I did that. But I'm good now. This affirmation brings together joy and zeal and enthusiasm by Ellen Davenport. I ignite my zeal by focusing on what brings me joy. She goes on to say that zeal is the engine that drives us. It's our get up and go. My dad used to say, my get up and go, got up and went. But it's our get up and go. It expresses a rush of energy at the start of something new and exciting. The energized enthusiasm that gets us out of bed, humming with expectancy, and the quiet intensity that keeps us moving forward. It's our passion for life. It's our life. And so we get to reclaim that every day. In the revealing word Charles Fillmore calls joy, the inward fire of the soul that urges humankind onward. Joy is the inward fire of the soul that urges humankind forward. I think we put all our burners on low, didn't we? All those fires in our soul. I know one person, at least in our congregation, that wrote a book during the pandemic. I'm like, that's pretty good. I was listening to an old video recording of James Dillett Freeman recently. He is a hoot, and that's who I read from today. But he was talking about the 12 powers on this talk he was doing, and he said emphatically, why didn't Charles make joy one of the 12 powers? Well, I guess Papa Charlie, as he was called, thought zeal covered it. And we can see, though, that it's fueled by joy. Charles said about zeal and enthusiasm, you're not to repress, but to guide the spirit of enthusiasm, which in cooperation with wisdom will bring you happiness and satisfaction and joy. I think we've all felt joy. See, when I say joy and zeal together and it comes out joy, I don't know. Anyway, it's been one of those. We've all felt joy and zeal and enthusiasm for life, or for certain aspects of our lives. And I know for myself, sometimes life just rushes in and takes me in directions like the darn river can sometimes, that river of life, of my life, and takes me places I didn't think I wanted to go, and I didn't want to go, and I resist, and I resist it, and I try to paddle backwards. But I'm filled with zeal and enthusiasm then until I'm not. And life's like that, isn't it? Right? These 18 months of COVID have challenged us to maintain our joy and enthusiasm in life. We weren't prepared for this, but we're not prepared for most everything in life. You know, we're just not. But we have a foundation that we build with our spiritual practices, and that's why they're called practices. And that's why it's called religion, even though, you know, that word really means just something you do religiously, something you do often, something you do with steadfastness, right? Like brushing your teeth. You know, you religiously brush your teeth every morning, right? But what I found as I sat in quiet contemplation before heading out into the world, in my first foray without a mask, like I said, I needed to increase my joy quotient. And that always helps to disperse my fear and my anxiety. I began to just think about the little things in life that bring me joy, like taking time to read a mystery novel on a rainy day or a sunny day. I just like them. Having time with my daughter, or sitting on the deck with my husband, like we were the other day, looking at the many, many birds that are in our trees, you know, talking on the phone with friends and my family. When my joy increased, I was refreshed and could reclaim my zeal and enthusiasm for moving forward, for opening our church. That took a lot of zeal and enthusiasm from all of us. So if you find your zeal is suppressed and you can't even make yourself be enthusiastic about anything, look at reclaiming your joy. Remember, my mantra this year has been little and often. Take some time just to quietly contemplate things you haven't done for a while. Stir up some joy in your heart. Does it stir up joy, or do you just go, meh? Keep looking. Find those little joys. Within the pandemic, what have you been missing? Maybe you don't really miss it. Maybe you think you should miss it, but you don't. So you can let it go. We have to look at it in all ways. This is a renewal. One thing we know for sure, we can't take time back. We can't even make up for it. So I looked at the things that I am not missing, like going to a department store and shopping. I love my Amazon Smile, but nothing is ever lost. We don't have to do double time to make up for the 18 months that we've been in quarantine. Take time to be honest with yourself about what brings you joy, what sparks your zeal and enthusiasm for life. You've got to be honest with you. You can ask for your guidance as the river of God energy flows through you. Was there something you loved about being in quarantine that you want to continue to do? Yeah. What about that? We can rest assured that our spiritual joy, and it is the springboard for our zeal and enthusiasm. It's not gone. We hide it sometimes behind all kinds of layers of shoulds and wants and could have and looking backwards. Just the act of noticing the world around you and how you respond to it is a spiritual practice. And that's how the Fillmores and many others thrived through a lifetime of what we now call hardships. I believe the Fillmores called them adventures in living and opportunities for spiritual growth and understanding. And that's what I call this That's what I pray that we all embrace, that this pandemic, that all the things in life are adventures in living and opportunities for spiritual growth. You know, all pioneers and detectives have to look beyond what we're familiar with, don't we? What we've been putting off, what we really, really want to do. Igniting your zeal is about listening to what makes your heart sing, even if the song is very quiet at first. We're never outside of the living, loving spirit of the divine. It is in and through us, as us, no matter what we call it. We are living within a limitless source of energy and joy in every moment. I invite you in this coming week to look within, to look around and find your joy and rekindle your zeal. Live the truth you know. Explore the truth that you want to know. The things that are not yet known to you. Know that in the darkness and in the light, you are safe, you are loved, and you are joy expressed. And so it is. Amen. Thank you. Okay. Now what are we doing?